guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to ask a simple question and give my reasoning as to why my answer is what it is. So, the question is, does security need to know Florida regulations or your state regulations, your state laws, and the regulations of the police departments and sheriff's departments in your state, as well as constitutional law? The answer to that question is yes. Whether you're security or just a civilian, you need to know those things anyway so you know your rights. But I'm going to tell you why my answer is yes, and why just because you went through your 1 week Florida course, in our case, 5 days for the D license, 2 days with a range day for the G license, why your training or information and learning should not stop there. So, constitutional law, very simple. That's your human rights established by the Constitution of the United States, right? That's our governing law, right? Constitutional law for human rights. What you can and cannot do. All right. Video recording in public's covered. So if you're an independent journalist, you don't need credentials, things of that nature. So if you guys come up and you're working at, let's say, a hangar where there's aircraft mechanics, right, at an airport, and someone's video recording outside in a public parking lot, and you go out there because you had some complaints made, right? What are you going to do? You're going to detain them, call the police? You're going to take it a step further when they don't agree with your commands? No, you're not. Because constitutionally, he's allowed to be there. He can do an audit. I'm sure you guys have seen those videos. Not many people like those guys, but hey, at least they're spreading the information of what your rights are and are not. So constitutional law, very important for you to know, especially when you're working security or law enforcement. State laws and regulations. You should know the laws by now if you're doing this job. So, common sense would tell you should know them. You should know as much law as possible. We are not police. We do not arrest. We can only detain. We don't go outside our limit of what we can do. And you need to know where that line is. So knowing what police actually are able to do, what you think they can do, and what you know you can do as security is important. So that you don't end up, for one, in cuffs with charges, or for two, in a civil litigation suit because you did something against their rights or you broke the law, right? So knowing your state law is important. In our case, the Florida Department of Revenue makes our rules, which is also intertwined with state law, as well as the same guidelines for law enforcement, right? There is separation there. Like I said, we don't arrest people, we detain them for a reasonable time. Well, what's a reasonable time? Well, look up your state law or your regulations with the Department of Agriculture in your state. They will put that information there for you. Usually 45 minutes to an hour is reasonable time if you do not have an officer or a sheriff arrive at the scene for shoplifting, whatever the case is, anything minor, misdemeanor, you want to know what those are because that's your reasonable time limit, right? Now, if you have a forcible felony, if you don't know what that is, that's more of, let's say you come across somebody raping somebody in one of your parks, right? In your complex that you're protecting or wherever you're protecting. Or someone has a gun and shoots at another person, right? Someone tries breaking in a car when someone is in it, or breaking into a home. Those are forcible felonies. reasonable time for law enforcement. If they don't come within an hour, then your law enforcement, your local police or whoever need more employees and better times that they respond to calls. Reasonable time for those things. If it goes past an hour, it's worth it, right? They committed a forcible felony, whether it be attempted murder, rape, whatever the case may be, guys. That is something that I would hold them personally, in my opinion, longer than that 45 minute to an hour window that we have. Anything less than that, try to get as much information as possible, put it in a report so that you have it for if they come back on property or back to your store, wherever you're protecting. So knowing those rules and regulations are important. You should know them. If you don't, learn them. This is going to save you from a lot of headache down the road. Do not ever assume anything. I don't know how many times that I thought teenage boys were grown men. You know, their voices are deeper than mine half the time. They got more of a beard than I do. But they're 16, 15 years old. There's certain things that you can and can't do or shouldn't do when it comes to minors. So don't assume someone's an adult. You know, responding to calls for service, you get a call in saying there's a domestic issue. Domestics are very gray lines when it comes to things in all matters of law, what police do, what security does. As long as nobody's getting hurt, act accordingly. If there's weapons involved, act accordingly. And I will say this, whatever call you're going to, make sure someone knows you're responding to a domestic. Make sure you, on the way to that apartment or hotel room or whatever it is, that you consult with someone and let them know what's going on. This not just protects you legally, but if God forbid something happens to you and they don't hear from you on the radio, the phone, text, whatever, they know where you are, what apartment number, what hotel number, whether it's south side, north side of the lot, whatever the case may be. They know where you are so they can find you quickly. So, once again, to that question, do I think you should know law, constitutional law, state law, and local regulations, guidelines for your state, whatever the case may be, and city ordinances? Yes, absolutely. Because there will always be people out there saying that you are overstepping, right? You're a rent-a-cop, you're whatever the case is, guys. Know your rights, know your rules, know the laws, and as long as you know that, you're not wrong, right? Nobody's perfect, we all make mistakes, but knowledge will keep us from making those mistakes. So that's it for this one, guys. Thank you for joining us again. If you have any question about Florida law or anything of that nature, I'm not a lawyer. Obviously, I'm not law enforcement, anything of that nature. So act accordingly with the questions and answers. And always verify what I'm saying to be true, because like I said, nobody's perfect. But that's it for this one. So if you have any questions, comments, you like this video, you didn't really think about you needing to learn these things, you know, getting into security, being new, being an old timer, you know, just give a thumbs up, give us a like, give us a comment, share this video, especially to those guys, because we all know those guys who just don't know anything, right? They think they know everything, but they're completely wrong. Share this video to them as well. You know, say, hey, here's you know, an opening invitation to me being polite and saying you need to learn something. But other than that, guys, have a good day. God bless. Take care. And be safe.